Second warning. It's 4:30. I call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the District of Tofino operates within the territory of the Tla-o-qui-aht First Nation, Tla-o-qui-aht. Notice to attendees that the meeting is being video recorded and will be published on the District of Tofino's YouTube channel. A notice of virtual attendees to sign up for public comment and question period using the Q&A function in Zoom. To register, participants are required to enter their full name, residence address, and the agenda item they wish to speak. If there are no objections, through unanimous consent, I move that pursuant to section 15, the District of Tofino meeting to file number 1229/2016 as amended, June 10, 2025 regular meeting being held electronically via Zoom and live broadcasted on the District of Tofino's channel, and that the facility provided for the public to watch and hear the meeting be located at Tla-o-qui-aht Sound Theatre, 380 Campbell Street in Tofino, BC. Seeing no objection, that motion is carried. You see, I only have to look one way. That's right. I don't need the double one. Also, through unanimous consent, if there are no objections, I'll move that the June 10, 2025 regular council agenda be adopted. Motion is carried. And the minutes. If there are no objection, also through unanimous consent, I move that the minutes of the regular council meeting held May 27, 2025 be adopted. Seeing no objection, that motion is carried. Mayor's report. It was an absolute pleasure to represent Tofino in Ottawa at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. There was quite the contingent from the West Coast. We were there and we were able to be in question period with Gord Johns as he delivered some rousing motions. And we were also fortunate enough to be hosted by our MP on the Hill for lunch. And also another shout out to our MP Gord Johns, who was a keynote speaker and delivered a rousing and well received 20-minute or 30-minute speech to all of the delegates. It was a great time to be there to represent the West Coast. It was also great to see well over 1,500 elected officials from across Canada, to meet many of them, and to have many excellent meetings and learn what's happening in the rest of the country. And it was also a great opportunity to lobby for Tofino on many fronts, including searching for funding for critical infrastructure. You know, one of the things that came out of FCM was that municipalities, regional districts, and all the other types of local governing bodies are all in the same boat as we are, searching for infrastructure funding that is in short supply. And one of the themes across Canada was finding new and novel ways for the federal government and our provincial governments to help, and our territories to help support municipalities in their uphill struggle to upgrade critical infrastructure that we all need for our homes and our economies. And back in Tofino, it's just so wonderful to be back in Tofino and see so many great things going on as we kick off the tourism season in earnest. And it just looks like people are having a fantastic time in this wonderful weather. So it's just lovely to be back here. It rained in Ottawa and everybody complained, and I thought it was great. That's it for Mayor's report. Public comment on agenda items, Mr. McCall.
Thank you, Mayor Law. I will now do an open call for comments. For those in the gallery who wish to speak, please raise your hand. If there's anyone attending online via Zoom that would like to make a comment, you can do so now using the Q&A function. For making a comment, you'll need your name, your address, and the agenda item you're speaking to. I'll now do an open call. Calling once, calling twice, calling 3 times. No comments at this time, Mayor Law.
Great. Well, I see no delegations. Moving on to correspondence, we have 8.1 Ministry of Housing. We have a letter from Callan regarding small-scale multi-unit housing alignment. Comments from council. Seeing none.
Just to quick one, I think we're addressing many of the concerns that are expressed with a better eye on the limits to growth policy, and there's been a keen interest on leveraging any opportunities to increase housing that we can, so. I don't think there's any, the app, what they're asking in the letter, I think we have particularly. Need to be.
It's great. And we should see some, as we go through the zoning review and rewrite, we'll see some changes as well. Okay, no other comments? I'll move on to zoning amendment bylaw 1335. It's for 1141 Pacific Highway. Mr. Wells.
Mayor and Council, thank you for this opportunity to talk about zoning bylaw number 1335 for this year, 2025. So just as an introduction, portion of our tourism industry flows through housing properties, taxes or residential, and just under 20% of DOT properties have B&Bs and STRs. 33% of our current business licenses are for short-term rentals. In 2020, median employment income for a full-time worker was about $65,000. Same year, the median housing cost was about $880,000 for a single-family home. So I know this has been discussed in these chambers before. The fact that our housing market largely is a global tourism and lifestyle market, with costs not necessarily driven by labor and wages. So developments such as this one here at 1141 Pacific Rim Highway are really important for our community. They directly address the housing crisis by focusing exclusively on adequate and sustainable housing for the district's workforce. People really who help ensure our tourism industry remains functional and thriving. So with that, I'll jump right in to this bylaw amendment, or zoning amendment. So here we have a development known as Crab Apple at 1141 Pacific Rim. It's within the ocean interface. Staff already live here through a year-round temporary use permit. Been in place since 2015. The proposal for this subject property, in simple terms, really plans to transform a long-term staff campground into more permanent, sustainable housing for our workforce, adding to the vibrancy of this satellite neighborhood for the community. So a bit of history, a bit of background here. The application was received originally on July 26, 2022. Plans were revised, which amended the application. And that amended application was received in September. And then permission to proceed was granted by council on October 10th in 2023. As I mentioned, the applicant resubmitted their application in September, removing all tourist accommodation and commercial components of this development, focusing exclusively on providing 85 beds of purpose-built staff accommodation. So to facilitate this zoning amendment before us, an amendment to our OCP will be required. This OCP amendment is being considered separately, but it's concurrent more or less to this application. It received first and second readings in January on the 28th and was carried unanimously. We hope to come forward in the coming months for third readings. Public hearing on that. So the primary built form of this development will be, or intends to be, 17 prefabricated single-story units, each containing 5 individual bedrooms, having shared common spaces and bathrooms. There are other structures on site, such as storage for gear, as well as a greenhouse and shelters for outdoor amenity spaces. So the submitted site plan indicates vegetation buffer surrounding the development and intends to restore some of the riparian area within this zone. We more or less support the schematic design for this development and will continue to work with the applicant to address key issues. So the applicant intends to enter into a housing agreement to ensure that staff housing on this site is occupied only by individuals who prove employment within the district. We're recommending, alongside the Ministry of Transportation and Transit, that the development remove the entrance noted in the northeast side of the property along Pacific Rim Highway and be restored to a natural state. And then this development combined with other future developments, I should note, throughout this area may require an upsizing of our existing sewer system and install a new sewer main. I also wanted to include a slide here that talked a little bit about the water allocation. These numbers are preliminary. They come from the applicant's consultant. We notified the applicant that they would require a WAC or a water allocation certificate per our limits to growth policy. And they provided two different options in terms of what usage might look like. One being with a rainwater reuse system, one being without. And so we provided some numbers here that more or less just extrapolate if we were to have full occupancy compared to the existing situation at a full occupancy, to try and drill down into perhaps what a per capita use might look like. So per capita, slightly less than existing use. If you use the gray water system, overall the development would have a modest increase of 0.7 cubes per day. So I should note also that council, in the case of rezoning, is the approving body for a water allocation certificate. So as we move forward, we'll have more precise numbers for you to consider at the next reading. So I would like to get into a little bit of discussion around the OCP. This subject property is located within the ocean interface, as I had mentioned, which is situated outside of our village core, where the OCP intends to concentrate future development, particularly housing. And so central to the discussion about this proposal and in our OCP, there's some tensions that lie within. And so we have this table within the report. And it outlines this desire to have housing within the ocean interface, but also highlights this desire to also contain our housing within our village containment area, as well as try and keep it outside of the tsunami inundation zone. So there's these tensions here, things that we'll have to address. So it's our staff's understanding that could deem this development viable despite the tsunami risk because of, due to the benefit of staff housing, appropriate mitigation measures, our increasingly sophisticated understanding of tsunami risk, our emergency preparedness program that continues to improve on itself every year, and then basically low incidence of tsunami. So this is just something that we wanted to call attention to regarding some of the tension within the OCP as to what the OCP says in terms of what we should do here. It says yes and also says no. And so I'd also like to touch upon zoning here. Aside from the noted changes of use shown here, this parcel is currently zoned as A1, so small holdings, and these are the uses that are permitted. The proposed comprehensive district would reduce those uses and be quite specific to what the development is proposing. Furthermore, as shown in Appendix 1 in the council report, it limits development to the number of dwelling units that are proposed, as well as the number of sleeping units within each. Not only is the density matched, the lot area is matched, the building heights are matched. Lot coverage is limited to 25% of the lot area. To get into financial impacts briefly, our application fees are designed to cover our processing times associated with this application. DCCs will be applicable, but at the time of building permit phase. However, we cannot collect CACs or ACCs, as they're now known in the province, for this project due to Bill 46. We need a ACC bylaw in place to do such things. So, and furthermore, ACCs or CACs, as we've known them, community amenity contributions, cannot be applied or cannot be associated with a affordable housing project, which we do this section. And then lastly, should the development be completed, the district's tax base would expand, although we haven't yet quantified what that would be. what that would amount to. Regarding community engagement, approval of this zoning would be contingent upon the approval of the OCP amendment that I mentioned. Assuming that approval, public hearing cannot be held for this project because it would then be in line with the OCP and it would be a housing project. So due to the new section 464, sub-point 3 of the LGA, we cannot hold public hearings for housing developments that are in line with the OCP to facilitate fast tracking housing development in the province. And then more or less our communication strategy for this application is inclusion within council agenda. We may go to Tla-o-qui-aht and other social media outlets to promote this if deemed appropriate. So this is our recommendation. Hoping this to be read the first time tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Let's open it up for questions for clarity to council. And it'd be great if I could see Councillor Steer. Clarity. We'll start. Councillor McMaster, Councillor Thomas.
Said there's 17 units. Correct? Are any of those units going to be less accessibility concerns or be able to be converted to make it accessible?
Through the chair, I don't believe we have that level of detail yet, but I can relay that the design as it's intended now is to be single story. So I would assume that they'd all be accessible. It is a flat site. We can encourage that moving forward.
I personally feel as anything in the future we've got to include some form of accessibility down the road. I'd like to see some sort of provision for that. And as I say, it may be just having the ability to convert one of the units when necessary, rather than make it permanently accessible. That's all.
I think I had Councillor Thomas, and then Councillor Steer, and then Councillor Anderson.
My question might be a little bit more project adjacent through the chair. I'm wondering if there's been any conversation about what will happen with displaced residents while building is happening, or if there's an opportunity for maybe the district to consider something similar to what you tried to do when they allowed people to temporarily have RVs on their sites.
Through the chair, this has not yet been discussed to that degree. However, I do know that there has been discussion around having a agreement in place, and so I think through the advancement of that housing agreement, we can work on those details, as well as giving current occupants priority on accessing the new housing.
I assumed that. I was just thinking building takes some time, and so just if we're mindful going forward about how we can assist the residents that are there now.
I would imagine, just as a follow-up, I would imagine because these are prefabricated structures, it would require a lot of sort of on-site construction, and perhaps it could be phased in a way that there would be minimal displacement.
Councillor Steer.
Yeah, thank you. And through the chair, I do have two questions, Mayor Law. Would that be okay to go concurrently?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate the verbal and written report and the detail that was involved. My first question surrounds, in the report, you had pointed out the development does intend to connect to the existing undersized water main on Hellison Drive. And in the report, it identified the district has identified a medium to high priority for upgrade to its inability to meet the 150 liter per second fire flow requirement for commercial units. I know this is not a commercial unit, but certainly the consideration along Hellison Drive. Is there a timeline identified for that upgrade to that water main?
Chair, could I defer to my colleagues?
Sure. If there's an answer.
Is there any current plan to address this issue?
through the chair, we'd have to take a look at the water master plan, what our capital plans are, and we can get back to council with that.
Councillor Steer, you go ahead. You're muted.
Thank you. Thank you. My reason for that, of course, with that kind of density and the kind of work that's on there, of course, ensuring that we have proper fire flows, I think would be critically important for that. Which brings me to the next question, and it refers to the site access. And while I am in support of decommissioning the access off of Pacific Rim Highway and focusing our attention on the access through Hellison Drive, I do have a question and maybe a concern, and I don't know if you'd be able to answer that. In terms of emergency services to access a site of that density, specifically around fire and ambulance, if there is some issues with the ingress at that Hellison Drive, would there be a possibility of relooking at that access off of Pacific Rim Highway as an emergency access only? My concern is with only one ingress and egress into that property in terms of emergency services, we could encounter some difficulties in the event of a larger type emergency service event.
Through the chair, we'll bring this forward to the applicant for sure, and get some response from their engineering consultants, as well as perhaps recirculate to the ministry if need be, to understand what might be necessary here in those cases. As the illustration shows, or as the proposed plan shows, it still has that egress. And so we still have some work to do to negotiate its closure, and perhaps that might change the interior circulation of the site, or require this emergency access to be retained.
Thank you. And Mayor Law, I just noted I have 1 minute, and it was just because I didn't hear the answer, but I think, and if I may, it's just a quick one for clarity. You talked about the OCP. We know that that's an important amendment that's moving forward. And I think I heard you say, my audio has been bad, I apologize, that you did say that we will be bringing that, it's very important about that OCP amendment. And you did mention that that'll be coming to council. I know it's already had first and second reading. When will third reading? I think you said in the coming months. Is that correct, sir?
Through the chair, our intention is to bring that this summer. Yes.
Super. I've got a couple questions. I did go back and review permission to proceed, and so I noted that there was a couple requests of council or concerns of council. I think the first one, Councilor Anderson's comments about the Pacific Rim Highway access, that's been addressed, so that will be removed, or at least not a usable entrance unless in an emergency. We'll see how that goes. That sounds like that's been answered. Councillor Steer did have a comment about, and maybe this has been answered in the report, about tsunami preparedness. So there was going to be there was a mention of how addressing some of the tsunami risks in this high dense area, tsunami risk area. And so what was the answer to that? Is that will be on the applicant to have on-site planning?
No, the answer is that our emergency planning continues to evolve and advance each year within the district. I'm aware of, for instance, we already have a tsunami siren very close to the site. Others being installed within the district. Every year we have evacuation planning. So our understanding is that because of that entity, and it's not associated with this plan in particular, that it would be adequate in terms of addressing risk. So in terms of what the applicant can do from a built realm perspective, that's something we can continue to negotiate with them and discuss with them. Hard to anticipate, hard to predict, hard to mitigate.
Well, I think it's a reasonable concern,
sure.
Noting the OCP and our tsunami inundation work, et cetera, et cetera. So
in many ways, this is almost a simple question of we know to some degree the risk of tsunami. We also know the challenges associated with accommodating housing in the district and where that can go. And so it's this, I think it's going to be a ever-present discussion as to how we continue to mitigate the risk while providing housing. So it's something that my department will continue to bring forward with every applicant who intends to build outside of the containment area.
Okay, and I had a question that stemmed from previous iterations of the application that had to do with density. And I'm gonna sort of upgrade that to talk about water use. So, I mean, I'm just gonna give you the preamble and then the question. The preamble is that this isn't an ideal, clearly not an ideal development according to the OCP and on many fronts, although it does provide needed housing. But I see with just the ADD, and thank you for providing that, there's two options. One of them is that the water use stays virtually the same. And then the other possibility is the water use grows by 3 cubic meters or something like that, 2 point something cubic meters. And my only concern is, because density has been an issue and water use is an issue, is that if this gets more water use and takes some of that limits to growth water, then that means that other potential housing developments that align well with the OCP have less. And so what I'm wondering is if council is interested to discuss this, is it possible to ensure that the gray water system is the one that the applicant chooses, or the other possibility is reduce the density, which has been talked about before, to bring it down to basically using the same water as it's using now within a cubic meter or so. That's something, just a question to throw out there for you.
We will certainly take that forward in discussion with the applicant. We would like to hear from council what some of these perspectives are as we move this forward.
Okay, that's all my concerns. Council is just gonna look to council and see if councillors' concerns have been heard and address. Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, I had a question around the force mains. That for a sewer force main and a connection from the property also would go to Ellison, which looks like it needs an upgrade maybe. When will we know more about that? And some of it would be addressed through district plans already ongoing. I'm just wondering what extent the burden of the upgrades would fall with the developer, to what extent those upgrades would fall with the district. Specifically, I'm thinking that maybe a Ellison upgrade to the highway might be the developer's burden, or is it all sort of in district planning right now? And maybe you can't answer that right now, but that's a consideration for who's responsible for those force main upgrades and how much of them. So
Through the chair, I'm not equipped to answer that at this time. I can defer to any of my colleagues if they have an answer. Otherwise, we can bring it back. Through the chair, where we talk about infrastructure is through the subdivision development bylaw, which gets triggered at subdivision or at building permit. And so in zoning, we talk about what the issues might be and what some of the solutions might be, but we don't address that at zoning. If a application went through and couldn't be serviced, then it stops at building permit or subdivision. This is similar to what happened with the Tofino Beach Lodge situation, where we didn't have the servicing place, denied a building permit. That's the process that comes. It's always addressed in zoning because you want everybody to understand what the issue might be and what some solutions could be, but it is addressed in the sub-bylaw.
Thanks. Councillor McMaster.
So we seem to be talking about water a lot. Is there any thoughts being given to establishing a sort of centralized rainwater collection system that could service the units.
Through the chair, that's part of the design currently is to capture rainwater and use that for, it's a fully separate system to use that for washing, for instance. So that's already being considered. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, is that what you're considering for
Yes.
rainwater?
Yes, that's so, yes.
Okay,
Sorry for clarity, that's the gray water.
okay, yeah. Consider grey water something different. Okay, happy to live with the recommendation.
I just got one more question, just for, because we're gonna probably be talking about this a lot, so it's always good to get a reminder or refresher. So if, when it comes to the building permit or the zoning goes through and, you know, the design doesn't actually use any more water than it has now, you know, say the gray water comes in and they get an engineer that says, yeah, it's the same. Do they still need a water, a whack? They won't. Or please go ahead. Or
Chair, I'll defer to Mr. Rogers.
They wouldn't, where it's one of the, as we work through the process, there's situations where it's like for like, we are tracking it in terms of not allowing it to be cumulative. And so we're tracking it separately for those type of ones. We're gonna see more of these rainwater offers. We know that Taco Biosphere Trust is looking at something very similar, also looking at covenants about how to deal with that. And the way I think about it, I just fall back on what the policy is telling staff to just, you know, to issue in case of residential but allow for things like rainwater capture or gray water capture. So.
great. Super. Seeing no other questions. Other comments? Okay, Councilor Master, go ahead.
Okay, I'll move that the District of Tofino zoning amendment bylaw number 1335 2025 be introduced and read a first and second time.
Second by Councilor Thomas. Any further comments? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, motion is carried. Okay, moving on, we have 9.2 fleet replacement, the multi-hog.
Afternoon, Mayor and Council. This afternoon, we are going to look at one of the fleet replacement equipment for 2025, which is an overview of the presentation for today. We will have a background of the current situation, followed by the benefits of the multi-purpose tractor, a few specifications of the equipment, followed by budget implications and financing. Back in 2012, the district purchased a flail that was used to reduce labor costs in order to have a better usage of the current tools to address the activities needed around the multi-usage path. The investments since 2012 on the multi-use purpose flail is at 5 million currently. The flail is out of service at the moment due to the component failure. And because of that, the replacement is necessary to maintain current service levels. Also to mention here that the purchase of the multi-hog was included in the adopted 2025 to 2029 financial plan. The benefits of the multi-purpose tractor, to name just a few, the asset is fit for purpose, which reduces downtime and the maintenance costs. Also, it aligns with the vehicle and equipment asset management plan. Also, considering that the asset capital costs are expected to increase substantially. Purchasing now, it's a better proposition than postpone for future years. Couple of specifications of the multi-hog. You can see a picture of the equipment. It's an articulated tractor used for urban maintenance. It's a year-round versatility, which is good for the usage in the current conditions in Tofino. The power is 130 horsepower and prioritizes operator health and safety. Looking at the budget implications of the purchase, the price is $279,854.40. The breakdown of that value is $249,870. The price of the multi-hog, including the mower. The GST of 5%, which is a recoverable value of $12,493.50, and 7% PST, which is a non-recoverable value of $17,490.90. And if we are adding the multi-hog price and the PST, which both are non-recoverable, we are looking at the total to be financed of $267,360.90. On the right-hand side, we can see the financing piece, meaning that the value included in the 2025 to 2029 adopted financial plan is $267,500, which covers the total price minus the GST, obviously. And the breakdown of that value is split between the financing through CNI levy of the fleet portion of $142,360.90, and the equipment financing through MFA of $125,000. Regarding the financing, again, through Municipal Finance Authority of BC, the financing goes through the equipment financing program that MFA has in place. The maximum loan length is 5 years. There is the option of extending to 25 years, but for that, there is a need for elector approval. The approximate annual debt servicing expense for $125,000 for 5 years is around $27,147. And to confirm that the proposal is for a 5-year equipment loan. And I will the screen, the recommendation, and welcome any questions.
Excellent, thank you. Questions for clarity from council? Councillor Steer, I see your hand up. Councillor McMaster's next.
Yeah, thank you. And through the chair, thank you for the report. Just a quick question, and forgive my ignorance because I can't remember. It is a very expensive piece of machinery, as we all know. We had the discussions, but I'm wondering, was there, had we looked at, and I don't even know it was possible, did we look at leasing, if there was lease options on this type of equipment?
Through the chair, we contemplated that option, but through calculations was decided that it's a better option to go with the purchase of the tractor.
Okay, super. Councillor McMaster.
You said it can be used for snow and ice removal. Does it come with a blade or is that an extra we have to purchase?
It comes with a mower that has multiple attachments to it, which is part of the purchasing price. But I will defer to Director of Public Works, Mr. Coughlin, for more details.
Through the chair, we'd have to buy the actual plow device for it. So it doesn't cost that. We haven't fixed that out just yet. Like to know.
Snow blower or plow? That was gonna be my question.
Through the chair, I'd have to take a look. I know a plow for sure, and we'd just have to look and see if there's a snow blower option for it as well. Get back.
Through the chair, we currently have a push mower, like a push blower, and then we have the ATV with the blades and plus our 2 trucks. And so it's not, it can be used for snow. It doesn't have to be used for snow currently. If we want to increase our level of service, like do things faster, like it might be an option, but it definitely come back to council for that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, one of the attractions is it can be used to remove snow and ice, so I would like to know cost of what we need to do.
Super, Councillor Anderson.
On the, maybe it's hard to remember it without the slide up there, but there's the cost of debt servicing 27,000 per year.
Correct. That is an
So
estimation.
5 years, we're paying as much as we're borrowing back as well.
Through the chair, the total will be around 135,735, which includes the 125,000 to be repaid as principal. So
We're borrowing 125, and along with the debt servicing, we'll be paying back 260 or so altogether.
135,000.
Okay,
So it's around $10,000 that we are paying in interest over the 5 years.
okay, I didn't understand. Thanks.
5-year loan paid off in 5 years. Excellent. All right, that sounds great. Comments? Do you have any comments, questions? No. No comment? I think it's a good investment. Paid off in 5 years, safe, efficient, should improve services, maybe even expand services. And I think it's a good investment myself. So seeing no more comments, questions.
One last thing, since we're looking into what other attachments might be available and what they would cost, I would like to know if it does, we get attachments for sweeping or anything else for that matter, other than snow and ice.
I'm sure staff would love to look through the catalog at all the attachments. I can see them drooling over it right now.
If we're going to do it, it's usually cheaper now.
Flamethrowers.
The other equipment that we're losing, I don't know what services we're losing with that attachments on. So
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Excellent. Would the councillor like to volunteer to read the recommendation?
I move that staff be authorized for up to $125,000 in accordance with section 175's community charter of the Municipal Finance Authority for the purpose of purchasing a multi-hog, multi-purpose tractor and mowing attachment, and that the loan be repaid within 5 years with no rights of renewal.
Second by councillor Anderson. Any further comment from council? Seeing none.
I'm just wondering whether, if we are considering getting attachments or whatever, should we amend that amount? Wait till they come back to us.
That will be a lesser amount. We don't have to get elector approval. Is that, can I say that? We can buy attachments, right? Without having to come back here or what?
Through the chair, maybe I'll take a crack at this one. I think when staff proposed the purchase of this equipment, we did it based on the established service level. I think if we want to expand that service level and add to the equipment, depending on the value, we would do that through the financial planning process. Likely we would talk about it at that time. Right now, I think it would be challenging for us to have that many pieces of equipment out in the field with the resources that we have. So I think that's a conversation for
Right. Okay, any further comments before I call the question? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, motion's carried. Thank you. Okay, bunch of committee of the whole minutes, several recommendations. Would anybody from council like to volunteer to read some of these? Volunteer.
So we have these recommendations from the committee of the whole. First one is staff will move that the committee of all minutes held. Let me start again. That the minutes of the committee of the whole held June 2nd, 2025 be received.
Second by Councillor Thomas, all in favor? None opposed, motion is carried.
And I'll move that the staff report titled Draft Tofino Recreation and Parks Master Plan dated June 2nd, 2025 be received for information and discussion, and that staff be authorized to prepare a final round of engagement on the draft Tofino Recreation and Parks Master Plan attached as Appendix 1 to the staff report titled Draft Tofino Recreation and Parks Master Plan dated June 2nd, 2025.
Second by Councillor Thomas, all in favor? None opposed, motion is carried.
And I'll move that the staff report titled 2025 to 2027 Resort Development Strategy dated June 2nd, 2025 be received for information and discussion.
Second by Councillor Thomas, all in favor? None opposed, motion is carried.
And move that staff be authorized to draft District of Tofino snow and ice control policy for council's consideration.
Second by Councillor Thomas. I was going to say, are there any comments?
I would just like to comment now that that might be, with all the talk of the multi-hog, it would be great if maybe this is where we received a quote for snow attachments for the multi-hog. If that could be included when that report comes for snow and ice control policy. Maybe it wouldn't be included in the policy, but maybe if that would be adjacent or relevant information to come with when we see that.
Yep. Super. No amendment needed, but I think council or staff. For that, yeah, sure. Any further comments? It's been seconded. All in favor? None opposed, motion is carried.
And my recommendation from the committee with all, I'll move that staff be authorized to draft a transportation maintenance and inspection policy for council's consideration, which will replace District of Tofino maintenance and inspection of roadways policy.
Seconded by Councillor Thomas. Any further comment or call a question? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, motion is carried. Excellent. All right, well, we're on to business initiated by council members. Council. I see no hands. Nothing. All right, that was easy. Question period. Mr. McCall, do we have anybody signed up for question?
Thank you, Mayor Law. No folks signed up yet, but I will make an open call for questions to both members and public in the gallery and for those participating online. For those in the gallery who wish to speak, please raise your hand. If there's anyone attending online via Zoom that would like to ask a question, you can do so now using the Q&A function. Before asking a question, you will need to say your name, your address, and the agenda item we're speaking to. I will now do an open call. Call it once, calling twice, calling 3 times. No current questions at this time, Mayor Law.
Okay, so then we are going into the closed. Perhaps I'll just move from the chair that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to section 91 ACK and 2B and D of the community charter to discuss matters relating to personal information about an individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employer, agent, employee relations, negotiations, and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of municipal service that are at their preliminary stages, and that in the view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. The consideration of information received and held in confidence related to negotiations between the municipality and a provincial government or the federal government or both, or between a provincial government or the federal government or both and a third party. a matter that under another enactment is such that the public must be excluded from the meeting. Seconded by Councillor Anderson. All in favor? None opposed, motion carried. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just take 5 minutes to go into closed. And so we'll mute the mics. Awesome.